studying sports management. Today, I'll be interviewing Garrett Bridges and learn more about what it's like to be director of basketball associations for the men's basketball team at NCCU. Before we get into the video, I would like to inform you that because of COVID-19, we could not do an in-person interview. But fortunately, we were able to use Zoom in order to get the interview done. And so, with that, I advise everybody to stay safe, stay indoors, practice social distancing, and that out of the way, let's get into the interview.
Work out for me, work out for me.
My name is Garrett Bridges, and I'm the Director of Basketball Operations / Director of Basketball Administration for North Carolina Central Men's Basketball. In season, I can give you two. I can give you off season and in season. Off season, I'm tasked with stuff like scheduling. So, you're going to contact different schools, see who wants to play games, what dates. May want to play some of the same teams from last year, so it's kind of easier process getting in contact with them, figuring out the money exchange, the hotel things, and the dates. Also, compliance stuff. So you want to make sure that your players, all their paperwork's in. And ironically, in times like this, you have guys who may want to transfer. So you got to make sure they're taken care of and they enter the portal and have the right, correct information, stuff like that, man. In season, it's a lot busier. Beginning of the year, you're planning travel. So, you're trying to lock up buses, planning stays. So you got to get in contact with hotels, do hotel contracts, make sure all that stuff's in order. I think as an operations person, I was at the University of Houston before I was here, and I did player development for 3 years. And so that's been definitely a transition for me, going from somebody who was on the floor or working with players and doing scouts and more, hands-on with that type of stuff, to transition into somebody who, isn't on the floor. You have to handle all the behind-the-scenes things. And, what I learned from our adobo at Houston was, good operations people, they're almost kind of seen, not heard. Because if everything goes right, nobody ever really thinks about the operations people or, what's going on with that whole deal, because it's kind of like, well, that's what's supposed to happen. But it's funny because he always said, if you make a mistake, though, you become the biggest person in the room. So if you get to a hotel and they're telling you you can't check in, now all of a sudden you got 25 people behind you trying to figure out why they can't go to their room, including their head coach. Or if we're about to leave on a trip and the bus isn't out there, that's a problem. Among other things, we have flights that we have to set up during the year, per diem. It's going to be a big deal if guys don't have money to eat, coaches don't have money to eat. And so, that's some of the big things and also small things at the same time. But that's just a typical work week. I think one definitely is organization. I think you have to have a lot of, you have to have all your ducks in a row. You got to have, folders for things and reminders. And, again, that's been one of the big transitions for me. It's a different type of organization when you're on the floor, when you're doing different things and scheduling players to come work out or having your scout stuff turned in and vice versa with all that stuff than it is being in an office. In an office, I think it requires a different form of organization, way more detailed, way more personalized for not only yourself, but, I'm fortunate to have an assistant who's really not, I hate to even use the word assistant. She, she stands on her own too. So, but I'm blessed to have help, and not just competent help, but somebody who's, very organized. She's on top of stuff. It's Michelle McLeod. She's our assistant director of basketball operations. And she, it's always great to be able to have somebody to hand them stuff and you don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? It's going to get done because it's a lot of stuff, I didn't even get into the purchase order stuff, ordering gear, equipment, it's a lot. But organization one, I think you have to be a people person. I think you have to have some you have to have people skills to be a dobo, because you communicate with a lot of people, and you're most of the time, you're the one communicating with the visiting school, with those coaches, or the other dobo, making sure they have their practice times, making sure they are comfortable, because you got to go up there too. It's a two-way street, and also when it comes to purchasing stuff or just building relationships within the community, you have to do that stuff. So you have to get out, you have to talk to people, you have to make people feel comfortable with you and your program, and you're an extension of the program. So you can't be shut off from the outside world. You have to be available. You know what I mean? And things are going to pop up, and things that aren't on your to-do list, and you have to be able to not only multitask, but you have to be able to kind of get in and out of those situations in a smooth way, so that people feel comfortable when you leave the room, and you feel good when you leave the room. And so I think organization and people skills are just two things that pop out to me off the top. So it kind of ties into my whole coaching stuff. So about, I guess it's year 4 for me. It's crazy, but 5 years ago, I wasn't trying to be a coach or do all these different things, man. To be honest with you, I mean, I tell people, you kind of get your calling when you get it. And if you're in the right thing, you kind of take off, and you kind of just lost in it. And so I was a college counselor before I got into high school coaching. I got into high school coaching because somebody Coach Bryant, he got after me year after year, like, man, you play college ball, man, why don't you coach? You'd be great. And I just would tell him year after year, nah, man, I'm good. I don't really want to get into that, and one particular year he was just after it, and he was like, it's not like I'm not going to pay you. And the money didn't make a difference, but I think at the time I just kind of was like, wow, somebody would pay me to coach. You know what I mean? I love basketball as is. I watch it every day, multiple times a day. And, it's crazy that it's not on right now, because I think we're all just kind of watching old highlights and just, ready to get back to normality. But they kind of started there. And then once I got into it, man, I just kind of fell in love with it. I think it's one of the coolest things in the world to work with a kid on something. It could be a play, it could be a skill, it could be a move, it could be just something little. And for them to grasp it, understand it, and then take it and use it. There's just something about that just was just cool to me. Like that's, it just resonated with me. And so I really actually wasn't in high school coaching long. I was fortunate. I was only there a year. And I kind of wanted to move up into college coaching. This was around the time I actually was looking into grad school at Central, go figure, and decided to get my master's in sports administration, because I was thinking I'll just be an athletic director at a university. I kind of zeroed in on that. And my father played college basketball with Kelvin Sampson, and who used to coach at Oklahoma, Indiana, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Houston Rockets, and now he's at the University of Houston. And so I promise you, I was not trying to move to Houston. I had asked him, I said, Dad, I don't like asking my dad to help me with stuff. He's a great man, and he's a great educator, and he worked in the field of education, kind of like his father before him. And my mother is a counselor, career counselor, but she's also a department head, and my father's superintendent, a career superintendent. And so I just hated asking him for stuff. Me and my sister both picked different fields on purpose to not deal with education, because you kind of want to make your own name. And but ironically, he helped me with this too. Go figure. And so I said, can you just reach out to him and just ask him, is there anything in North Carolina, South Carolina, go? And that kind of the University of Houston, say he worked in University of Wyoming. I would have been in Wyoming. It really wouldn't have mattered where he was. It just happened to be in Texas. And he was like, I can't help him with anything in North or South Carolina, but I have about 6 months left on a guy. There was a guy there doing a GA, And he said, let him finish out the year. And then if he comes and interviews and we both, like the situation, then we'll get it going. And so fast forward, flew us out there, went to a game, had a little, it didn't really even seem like an interview. It just seemed like a talk about basketball. Like, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? And, all of that. And you kind of got into the little nuances, all of that stuff. And he called me when we were headed to the airport and told me that he liked me, and whether I realized it or not, that was an interview. And if he wanted, if I wanted the GA spot, I could have it. So then, you end up moving to Texas. Fast forward, I had a wonderful 3 years there. Went from being a GA after my first year to doing player development for him for the next 2 years. We actually made the Sweet 16 last year, which was kind of the pinnacle of my time there. We went from making the NIT my first year, the round of 32 my second year, and actually lost on a half-court buzzer beater to Michigan. We actually would have went to the Sweet 16 2 years in a row if not been for just this miracle of a shot they made. And then the following year to make the Sweet 16. And then, like anybody else, you're kind of looking for a job because, you've kind of done that. There's not a lot of places to advance up the ladder there for good reason. And you were just I was looking for a new challenge. And coach understood that. And so they helped me as much as they could. Found a way to get in contact with Coach Moulton, had a great interview with him. And Central Director of Operations. Everybody's career, you move up the ladder. You go up so that you can get to where you want to get to. Most dobos turn into assistant coaches, and assistant coaches turn into head coaches. And it's going to happen overnight, but that's the goal. And to be 4 years in, I think it's going pretty well.
Man.
I mean, ironically, just my master's in general was on more of an administrative track. And so, when you're preparing to be an AD and do all those things, you have to think about budgets. You have to think about money, lines, kids, placement, all those things. And they really kind of tied into what I do now. And so I think that when I was doing player development, that's something I had to learn. I had a great teachers, Hollis Price, Mikhail McLean, Casey Beard. I could go on, on and on. But those guys were great there, man. They really taught me what it was, to be a player development coach. And, I already have people skills, which helps with that. You tie into it. But then like I said, you transition to this. And you kind of lean on the stuff you learned in class. Believe it or not, you're sitting in some of those classes like sports law and just some of these classes, man, you're just like, I'm never going to use this stuff, I swear, ever. Like, well, why do I need to know these things? But ironically, it actually ended up coming full circle in a way, And so, and then you realize, even as a head coach, you still need to know all those things. You need to know if budget lines are wrong. You need to know if your Dobo messed up on something like that. You need to know those things instead of being blind and never have gone through this path. So, but really, I rely on my master's stuff. What I have my master's in, that's helped a lot.
True.
Anything with administration work. So business administration could probably slide. It's probably a lot of similarities there. Obviously sports administration, because you're working towards, stuff in that field. Outside of that, though, some like I have my undergrad degree is in communications and public relations, which wouldn't be bad. Public relations wouldn't be bad because that's really what a lot of this stuff is, man. It's being able to do your job and being able to talk to people. I mean, you send emails, as small as that stuff sounds, there's like a certain way you need to send an email. You can't be mean to people, but you also have to be firm. If you're trying to get something done and somebody's in your way, you need to move them out of your way, in the most professional and polite way possible, because you can't take a no back to your boss. You get what I'm saying? Like, my boss expects me to get something done. I can't turn around and come back to him with a whole bunch of excuses like, well, this person's not doing this, that, and the third. It's kind of my job to make them do their job. You know what I mean? If they're not doing it. And so, but there's always a professional way to do that. You know, you can't just walk around talking to people any type of way because, you know, in this profession, you need people. You know, if I could do everything on my own, then I'd be fine. But the truth be told, I can't. Once paperwork leaves my office, I need business to do their job. I need the PO people to do their job. I need a lot of other people to do their job. And so, you know, as crazy as it sounds, you need them to like you. And so those three professions or degrees, you know, administrative work, public relations work, even communications or sports administration, they kind of teach you how to jump in and out of these different waves and different paths and energies and vibes that you need to have to be able to navigate adult life, basically.
True.
I think sports law sticks out so much because it was so hard. Like I had Dr. Jones. She's not there anymore, but I think it was a flat out sports man. Like, but this is one answer that I don't want to lie about because I don't really remember a lot of those courses now because they just kind of all blended in. Sports law sticks out the most just because it was so technical and the writing aspect of it. She made you write a certain way that made you understand what it was you needed to do on a daily. Because at the time, Dr. Jones was the head of compliance. So her class was very technical on rules, regulations, what you can and can't do. You're legally obligated for this, that, and the third, you know, and these are all situations I need to know now. You know, if a kid gets hurt in my gym, is that our fault? You know, if he's not on scholarship, if he's just in the gym playing ball, is that our fault? Is that organizational control? Was I supposed to be there? You know, does that fall on the basketball or does that fall on NCCU athletics? Same way with having kids on that football field at night. You know, it's I think a kid broke his neck there like at 7, 8 years ago. And so that's part of the reason why they don't want people on there at night. They were playing football at night. But, you know, the school got sued. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's little things like that that I need to know on a daily. And like I said, she was the head of compliance, and I am one person that has to definitely interact with compliance a lot on incoming players, outgoing players, people being on the floor who can and can't be on the floor, my managers, forms that they have to sign during the year, what they can and can't do. So sports law, that would be my answer for that one.
Cool.
I don't really know if there is a way to prepare for it, man, to be honest with you. I mean, I've talked to so many those and just people in general. I think you kind of flow into these jobs and you kind of learn on the go. You know, and if it's different if you get another double job at another school, then obviously they're expecting you to come in because you were doing it somewhere else, so you should know the ropes. But I think anybody who hires somebody and it's their first year in a job, they know what they're getting themselves into. You know, you have to trust that you hired a competent person who's going to be professionally get their work done. But, you know, to say that they're never going to hit a stumble during the entire course of the year is just unrealistic. You know what I mean? I mean, in my first year, I definitely had some blips in the road. You know what I mean? Just some things that you don't know what you're doing. So, you know, you have to learn on the go. But I've had way more good days than I have bad. And when you do make a mistake, you know, my go-to phrase is you got to outwork your mistake. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But you're going to have to outwork them when you make them. You can't just lay down and say, well, I messed that up, so what? No, you got to get in there. You got to fix it. And make sure that you avoid what I like to call our major mistakes. That's something I did avoid the whole year. You know, you never was a bus not out there, never was a hotel not paid for, never did a kid not have a plane ticket. Never did we miss per diem checks, never did we miss meals. You know, those are things you just can't mess up on. You know what I mean? That's just flat out no-goes. But some little things here and there with paperwork or you know, just some little stuff that you don't know the nuances of. I think you're gonna just kind of have to, you know, go with the flow. So I don't think if you're coming into a new job or even a new career, I don't think you're gonna really know what you're doing. I think you just kind of have to trust yourself as a person and your work ethic. if you love it enough, you'll just kind of learn to fix it. You know what I mean? You'll have an itch to get better at it. When I got to when I was doing the same thing when I was doing player development, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had no idea. I could have been. I was watching people on a daily, just kind of lost. But before the year was over with, I took people to the side, learned. You have some players who need, basically at the time, really they just needed a rebounder. But they don't know you're working on your craft at the same time. Like, cool, I'll rebound for you, but let me work on this, that, and the third. So then when I actually do start working with people, when they trust me to work with people, I won't mess this thing up. And it's the same thing here, man. You know what I mean? I will say again, I was lucky to come in to somebody who had been here before. Like I said about Michelle McLeod, she was there already. And so, half of our staff was new this year. So I think the only returners were Coach Sharp and Michelle. Actually, go figure. All the other assistants left. He brought in 2 new assistants, a new player development person, and me. So the majority of the half staff was new. So you kind of have to learn Coach, learn what he likes, what he doesn't like, what his expectations are, what his standard is. Yeah, man. So I don't think there's a way to kind of prepare for it. I just think you got to dive into it. Like I said, just trust that I'm in the right place. So it all work out.
Yeah.
I think fields are always growing, but I would be lying if I didn't say there's still not a lot of new blood. And when I say that, I mean, I think it's no joke when you see coaching opportunities come open, new head coaching opportunities, you kind of see the faces in them. They kind of rotate. You see different people in different places, but it's the same name. I think anything below us and a head coach, assistant wise, you kind of settle in. To be honest with you, if you're a Dobo or an assistant, I think you kind of stay in that job until you can move up. You never want to move out. You never want to get frustrated and say, well, I've been a director of basketball ops for 4 years now. I should be an assistant by now. I'm going to just give up. You know what I mean? You can't have that attitude. It's the same way with being an assistant. I'm sure there are assistants who want head coaching opportunities, but there's only, either it's 250 or 350. One of those, don't quote me, but it's either 250 or 350 of those jobs, period, in America. And you got to think there's about a good 150 that aren't going to change every year. Roy Williams ain't going nowhere. Coach K's not going anywhere. The blue blood programs, those guys aren't going anywhere. The high mid-major guys that are winning, they're not going anywhere. So it's not like there's a whole bunch of opportunities every summer. That's why I think it was such a big deal when Final Four got canceled. The NABC canceled their opportunities and their events, because that's really a mingling place. You don't always go to the Final Four and get jobs. That's just not how it works. But you also never know. You know what I mean? There's been some guys who literally just had dinner with a guy they didn't know. And guys like, hey man, I kind of like you. What do you do? And I don't want to say the coach's name, but he went from basically being a high school guy to a video coordinator at a mid-major and was only there for 2 years, and the head coach moved on, and now he's head coach at a high major Division I SEC school. And that guy has gone with them every step of the way. And they really just happened to meet each other at the Final Four and have dinner with each other. And he just kind of vibed. I mean, so again, right place, right time. You get lost in it. There's always jobs. There's always opportunities. Somebody's always moving on to something else. So, I mean, there's always different Dobo spots open or different assistant spots open. But, it's really, in coaching, it's truly about who you know. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's the truth. You need to know somebody. It's like a fraternity. Once you're in, you're in. But you need to know somebody to get in the door, because I don't think there's a lot of universities that are just giving away GA positions to the best applicant. You know what I mean? Because, at the time, let's be honest, there was probably somebody out there with more basketball experience than me. But I got the opportunity, and I maximized it. And I think that's what it's about. So, yeah. It's just, it's really about coming to get stuff done every day, man. Coming to work every day. Like I said earlier, be organized, be a people person. If you know you're not a people person, work on that. Put yourself in, get uncomfortable. You need to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Um, but I mean, really outside of that, that's it. I mean, there's not a certain, you don't have to be a certain type of person to do this job. You don't have to come from a certain type of background, you just really have to have a love for the game. I think that drives everything. And also you do have to be, one thing I would say, you do have to be a self-motivated person, because you have to be able to see the big picture at the end of it. Do the job now so you don't have to do the job later type deal. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a career Dobo. So I don't want to do this job for 25, 30 years. My goal in this is to, I think, doing now to be able to do what I want to do later. And so whatever your field is, but especially this one, whatever your driving force is, you need to hit that rock every day, and make sure you're doing what you need to do to get there. And I think that'll pretty much drive you through all the little things in the in-between. Trends. For mine, that's a little tough because, when I think trendy stuff, I think more about things that assistants do with different recruiting stuff or different scout software, same with head coaches, different professional development and stuff like that. I mean, I'm really honestly not sure. I can tell you something that I would like to see, and but should become a trend. The the player development people become Dobos, or GAs become player development, and so on and so forth, all the way up to you become a head coach. But I think at every stop along the way, I think they have this for assistants. I don't know if they do for Dobos. At the end of the year, I feel like all the Dobos in your conference, just your conference, not across America, because that's just too much. But just the core guys in your conference, I do think there should be some sort of retreat, because everybody's not going to be, 2 years from now, all the Dobos in your league, your conference, they're not going to be there. They're either going to move on to another place, whether they go up or they go down. But people get better jobs and they move on. Because, I'd be lying to you. I said I don't want to be a Dobo for 25 years, but if the SEC or the ACC called tomorrow and they said, hey, I want you to come be my Dobo over here, then I'd go do it. You know what I mean? Just because you're trying to advance and you're trying to find your next place so that you can hopefully get to where you want to go. You know what I mean? And I think you have to be blessed enough with the people around you that want to see those things for you. And that's what I've been fortunate with, whether it's Coach Sampson or Coach Moden. They want you to advance in this career. They're not trying to hold you back. They may know they have a good person doing a good job, but they know you have your own goals and your own things of that nature as well. And so I think that you need to know as many people as you can. You need to have as many contacts as you can. You need to be able to pick up the phone and get a hold of certain people. Your reference need to be good. And what better way to at least be able to put somebody down and, all right, the season's over, everybody in the course is ended. How about we meet in some place for like a day? I know that we're all grown men, so I'm not trying to take up anybody's weekend. You know what I mean? But meet for like a day or maybe even 2 at the most, and just politic. You know what I mean? Have breakfast, have a luncheon, have something, sit down. What worked for you well this year where you were at? Oh, you used that busing company. Are they good? Maybe we could use them too. How was your booking agent? Were they good for you? Okay, what was the system they used? Oh, that seemed easier. Let me make that suggestion to my AD next time I have a conversation with them. Networking, and something that I don't think people take into account. And I don't want to say it's a stereotype thing where it's African Americans that don't do that, because I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'd be interested to know the number of actual African American directors of basketball operations within Division I sports. I think that would be a unique number to know. But we need to keep in contact with each other and do something like that. I'd like to see a retreat like that. And it was something that I actually almost thought about doing myself. But obviously, we're all inside for the next 2 to 3 months, and so it wouldn't have mattered anyways. I think everything has gotten canceled. I was actually scheduled to talk at the law school symposium next month on a Q&A panel for about 50 minutes, and that got canceled too. So, I mean, this whole summer, man, I think is really going to teach people a lot, because a lot of those opportunities to kind of network and get out here and talk with different people, it's not there this summer, and it's not going to be there. And so, sorry if my screen paused because my right now. But I'll call and get back to you. Okay, am I back? All right. Yeah. So but that's my spiel. You just have to trust the process of kind of where you're coming from, whether it's high school, whether it's coaching at a different level, whatever. Entering the field, those as long as you can take into account what you feel like you're going to need to get the job done, just kind of make sure you're good at that, or at least working to be good at that. You're not going to be great at everything when you first do it. You're not going to be good at everything when you first do it. There's a big difference in my day one and my whatever today is. You know what I mean? I know a lot. I've been through a whole season now. I know what the expectations are. I know what standards are. I know what a day looks like for me. Whereas day one, I had no idea, no clue. So be able to weather the storms, be able to pull yourself out of the ruts. Don't let yesterday beat you tomorrow. Don't bring yesterday into today. Leave it where it's at. And that's hard. It's easy to preach that type of stuff and say, don't get down and stuff like that. But we're human. It's gonna happen. And I think that the biggest part is really just being able to adjust that, with whatever it is you choose to do. So, NABC, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, I think everybody should pay their tithes and get into that and start going to those things as early as you can, because a lot of people are there. Everybody's at the Final Four for the most part. There's some people that don't bother, but for the most part, everybody's there. If they're not walking around, they're teaching something, actually, whether it's a seminar or something like that, and it's a good thing to have, because you don't have to pay for the packet when you get there. You're already a member. But off the top, though, that's the most important one. That everybody's part of the NABC. Just be patient. You're in. I think it's easy to get caught up in wanting to advance quickly and stuff like that. But you just kind of have to pace it. You got to understand where you are. Realize that wherever you're at, there's somebody right now who would kill to be where you are. You know what I mean? Like, there's a guy who's taught high school or coached high school for probably 15 years and been wanting to break into college athletics, and here you are, just deciding to do it on a whim. And I don't care if you're just a graduate assistant at the lowest of the low. It doesn't matter. There's somebody out there somewhere who would kill to be in your shoes. So have an appreciation for the job. Do whatever the job entails, and just stay patient, but also don't settle. You know what I mean? Don't just get comfortable and slide into a role and just stay there and just decide, well, whenever my coach decides it's my time, I guess I'll find something else. Be active. You know what I mean? Be aggressive. I mean, I always recommend being aggressive more than not. So stay on your toes, stay ready, stay active, stay aggressive. because you have your own goals and dreams as well. Hopefully, when you're getting into this, because if you're getting into it for the money, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see what you think you're going to see for a while. You know what I mean? And so you have to genuinely have a love for the game and a love for what you're doing, with an understanding of, where you can get one day. But if you think your first job in athletics, unless it's all about who you know now. But most people aren't coming into $80,000 jobs their first job. That's just not the norm. That's not the norm. That doesn't not people that have done it or even done better than that, because there are. But just the average person working their way in, that's not the vibe. So just yeah. I mean, the pros are pretty easy. You get to be around the game every day. You get to be around, players that you influence every day. I think it's a cool job to roll out of the bed in the morning and at 6 a.m. and go to practice. And get paid for it. So I don't really know there's many cons to it. I think cons are really whatever you make it. I think people can find something to complain about no matter what. You know what I mean? So I don't think anybody's cons would necessarily be the same. None just stick out to me. You know what I mean? Just be honest with you. I haven't really found a lot of cons in it. I guess if there's one, it's it's rare. You don't treat it like a regular job, so you don't bounce around a lot. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna move and you're gonna bounce around, but you're not gonna do it year after year. So if you have a family, which I do, in 2 years, 3 years, you're uprooting them again. For the most part, you're gonna uproot. We're gonna move somewhere else. You're gonna start over. You're gonna, and so you're picking that type of lifestyle for your family until you eventually settle in to where you're an assistant or a head coach, and you're gonna be somewhere for maybe 4 or 5 years, and you can get a little bit more settled. But I guess but to me, that's not necessarily a con. That's just the way of the business. You know what I mean? Like that's anybody, anywhere. When you want to advance and you want to move up the ladder, it normally doesn't happen where you're at. You know what I mean? You normally get a better job somewhere else. Now, you're fortunate that somewhere else is in the same state, or if it's only 15 minutes away from you live. But most times it's not. You're going somewhere else. And so, that'd be it for me. But I think cons are kind of what you make them. If you choose to look at the glass half full, you can. If you want to look at it half empty, I think you can do that too.
You don't want no problem with me. Yeah. You don't want no problem with me. Just another day at the pick up on the mail. They gon' channel right.